Hi, I'm Gavin. So today I'm going to talk about the OM4. Now, the very last camera that Olympus made, the large digit 4-digit camera, was the 4, and then the 4Ti was a follow-up to this with tweaks, and then that was it. No more cameras of the OM sort of lineage. I think Olympus were probably late to the game with autofocus. Sounds like contact, doesn't it? And then they sort of changed direction with their cameras. They did, obviously they're still here doing cameras. They didn't fade away like contact did. And so they make some brilliant micro four thirds cameras. Really, really good. I mean, I had one for a while. OM5, I can't remember. Not OM5. I can't remember which one it was. OM1, but the new digital one. Anyway, so yeah, so this is the OM4, and they made at the time. I can't show it to you. Oh, focus, come on. Is he going to do it? There it is. Now, at the time, matrix metering, Nikon's matrix metering was the big thing. We had I think it was the FA in market, and they were starting to put matrix metering into cameras. What's that? Basically, if you divide a picture, divide an image into segments, and then individually meter each part of this matrix, then the camera could work out what should be the correct exposure across the entire picture. Obviously, you've seen this before. If you've got a center weighted metering, it picks up the center, and that's what it thinks. So you get the problem with in a bright background where it's this bit's lit up, that bit's super bright, or if you metered off the back, then that bit, it's sort of like that's all exposed properly, but the bit at the front is sort of dark. So you've got exposure compensation for it. But I mean, what you really want to do is just be able to take the shot, don't you? So matrix metering had come out. Obviously, Olympus, they didn't do that, and you can actually still see this function on certain cameras today, and I think it's better than matrix metering. I know that's easier, but what they came up with on the OM4 is what's called multi-spot. So on the camera, you switch it to auto, and you point it at a part you want to meter, say over there, and then you hit the spot button, and it takes a meter reading there. So then you point it at another area, and you hit the spot button again, and it takes a meter reading over there. So you've got up to 8 of these spot matrix. So you're making your own matrix. So if you imagine, if you're shooting a face, under the chin's always a bit dark. So you could take a reading here, you could take a reading on the top of the head, you could take a reading here on someone's face. So you get an incredibly accurate sort of spread of exposure using this matrix metering system. It could lock it in, and then you have a button here. I'll do what I do on the table to, just clear the memory. But yeah, so you've got 8 spots. The other thing they introduced, and I can't remember seeing this on the camera, but it is clever. All film, or white balance as such, is done off of 80% grey. So when you shoot pure black or pure white, like snow, it messes up cameras. They can't quite work out what's going on because everything's based off grey. It's not off of black, it's not off of white. So on this camera, they've got a really cool feature. They've got 2 buttons next to the spot called highlight and shadow. So if I'm shooting absolute black, like like a record, that's actually the example they use in the manual, I think, and you want the record to look black instead of slightly greyish, you hit the shadow, you take a meter reading, spot meter reading, hit shadow, and that will adjust to ensure that what you're looking at will be black when it comes out. And conversely, say I'm shooting someone in snow, the snow looks weird. So you take a spot meter reading of the white object, pure white, and then you hit highlight, and highlight now will adjust the exposure to take into account that it's white. So it's really difficult to explain that actually, but when you see it, it's amazing because white things are white in photos, black things are black. Now, if you shot with other cameras, you can see if you shoot a white wall, it's really, snow's a good one. It doesn't quite work properly, but this it does. So there's a really great feature. So you had this amazing metering system built into the OM4. All the old, off the film metering and all the other things that, we've known and loved in the older Olympus cameras. But yeah, I mean, the OM4 is a great camera. It's a really interesting camera, and it's a really clever one. When you get into multi-spot metering, you can't go back because it's sort of really handy. So it's very, very useful. Anyway, we'll have a look at it on the table, and then we'll come back. Okay, so OM4. Bit of a movement around on this one for certain things. They've changed the positioning of certain features that they had on the earlier cameras. So over here now, underneath our film crank, we now have our exposure compensation. Remember, this used to be over here on the previous cameras. And then again, we've now moved the ISO over to here, so you can lift this dial and change your ISO. I'm sure they did this. You have to lift it quite considerably to get it to. Right, so if you just turn it without lifting, that's your exposure comp. If you lift it, there you go, it should engage it. Yeah, it's weird because it takes around the exposure comp with it, but then when you drop it, you have to push the exposure compensation back. I'm sure there's room for error there. But no, I mean, I think once you know what you're doing with it, you'll be okay. So anyway, okay, so you've got 3 positions here. Manual, which is basically, as you would expect, you can control both the aperture and the shutter speed. Auto puts the camera into aperture priority. Then you've got a battery check up the top there. This is the first time you see this. You've actually got a small adjustment. Kind of get that into focus. You've actually got an inbuilt. Can you see that? There. You've actually got a diopter adjustment. People like me that wear glasses, this is great. I mean, this is actually inbuilt into the camera. You can tweak this, so you don't have to have. On many other cameras, you have to have a different screen at the back here to add or minus what you need. But the diopter's built directly into the camera. That's great. That's why I like this one. Okay, then we flash the shoe thing, and then we move over here. So, as I mentioned, we've got this highlight mode here, shadow mode here, and these are the 2 modes that adjust the exposure to match up with black or white. And then we've got, so the camera's always in aperture priority when it's on this mode. It's only when you hit the spot button, which is here, that it starts to go into the multi-spot mode. So you hit that, hit that, hit that, and it keeps, remembers the meter readings you've taken. Now I wonder if I can show this. So I'm going to take a spot. Then what you can do is, if you want to keep that exposure, you can lock it, and you see the light begins to flash there. It tells you you've got a meter reading actually locked into the camera. And if you move this dial to the other way, that clears the memory of the camera with the meter reading. So let's do that again. So look, so I've taken a reading there, reading there, reading there. Now if I push this, that's locked into memory. And obviously this is a battery drain, so what you want to do is make sure you just don't leave it like this, because you could actually, there's no on off, so you could put it in your bag. So move it that way, that clears the memory of the camera. Okay, so you've got your crank rewind here, and as on the OM2SP, the release is up here to rewind the camera, and then you've got your frame counter over here. Back, exactly the same. Front of it, very similar. You can see the similarities between the OM2SP and the OM4, the same kind of self-timer thing. And then you've got, again, an illuminator up here to illuminate the interior of the camera. That is a massive battery drain. Then you just squeeze to release the lens, turn it back. Over here, another flash thing that I pay no attention to. Anything else on the camera? No. There's that, but I absolutely don't know what that does. What's that? There's a lock button. I've never used that. Anyway, if you really want to find out what that thing does there, Google it. It'll be in the manual. So, small hole port for the auto rewinder, for the rewinder, and then the battery over here. You can see the connectors that go through to the rewinder. Anyway, there we go. OM4. Okay, so this is the viewfinder of an OM4, and when you first pick it up, it should be dead and then inert, then look like this. So if you touch the shutter button, there you go. You can see all the measurement, all the sort of readings have moved to the bottom. You've got the shutter speed indicator all the way up to 1/2000 at the bottom, and a small bar. Now, I don't know if mine will do it because some of the bits of my screen are beginning to die. So if I move it, we're in auto. If I switch it to manual, okay, it's the same kind of indication system you've seen on all the previous Olympus cameras, but they've moved it to the bottom. So what you basically have to do is to get that little bar to sit. Hang on, get that little bar to sit in the middle of those two arrows, and then you've got a reasonable exposure. So back to auto. Now I'm going to hit spot. Now spot will take a reading, and if this screen worked properly, there'd be a small diamond would appear underneath where you took the reading. I'm going to change this and then put another one there. You see now, you see spot has popped up over there. Move it again. Yeah, there's a diamond indicator if you've got a proper working LED. Mine doesn't. And then if you hit the high or low, it should indicate, as I was speaking about the high, the highlight and the shadow. So if I hit one of them, no, there you go. That's now, you've taken spot meter reading, and now you can see the shadow indicator. I don't know if the high works on mine. No, that's the problem with these screens. They do die in parts. Mine still survived for an amount of time. Now I'm going to clear the spot meter reading. There we go. So now I'll move the lever back and it's cleared all the readings. And that's the OM4 viewfinder. Okay, so that's the OM4. Now, this is another one. I think I mentioned this with the OM2 SP. This is another one of these ones that has the battery thing. Again, put SR44s in it. Yes, they probably won't last as long as they do in other cameras. There's potentially a battery drain. There's all sorts of ways people tell you to stop the battery drain with these. It's like put it to bulb, which is to like turn that around. But it's about, what was the other one? There's like a load of them to stop it draining battery, because apparently there's a small residual drain in them. They changed these to the TI and they removed the issue. And I think with the OM4, they had a few problems when they launched it with this. Not problems. There's about 4 or 5 different versions that you can get of an OM4, different circuitry that was put in to solve this issue, adjust other things. So you don't know which one you're going to get. And there's no real way to tell. So you may end up, they work, but you may end up one with a bit more battery drain than another one. It should put you off getting one. Just don't put lithiums in them. But no, I mean, they're really good. But if you panic about the battery thing, just take the batteries out after you've shot it. But they are worth it, and they're really, really cool cameras. And you can get great pictures with them, like all the Olympus cameras. Anyway, there you go. OM4, superseded by the OM4 Ti. They're much more expensive than these. Thankfully, because of the battery issue online, these go for a lot less. Just get one. I mean, and then you know the potential battery problem with them, and then just go with that, because you're getting a hell of a camera for that much, to use. Anyway, okay. Thank you for watching.